They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from family. I used to think that was just something people said in movies or books. But in that moment, sitting at the long mahogany boardroom table across from the man who raised me, I felt the full weight of those words crash into my chest like a freight train. The room smelled like old leather and polished ambition. On the wall behind my father hung a massive photograph of the original warehouse, the birthplace of the business he'd built from the ground up. He used to say, "This company is the legacy I'll leave behind." What he didn't say, apparently, was that I wouldn't be part of that legacy. My name is Emma Reed. Until yesterday, I was the Director of Technology and Innovation at Reed Industrial Solutions, the family business. I spent 10 years helping expand it from a dusty regional supplier to a nationwide logistics powerhouse, integrating systems, streamlining operations, and designing proprietary tech that gave us a competitive edge in a cutthroat industry. I worked side by side with my father. I skipped vacations, birthdays, even my own engagement party to make this company what it is. And yet, there I sat, watching him lean back in his chair, steeple his fingers, and smile as he said, "Your brother is taking over the family business. You're no longer needed." The words didn't come with anger. There was no dramatic shouting or table slamming, just a cold, calculated sentence, one he'd clearly rehearsed. Around the table sat the company's board members, senior executives, and my younger brother, Noah. He didn't look at me. He just stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, wearing the navy blue suit I'd picked out for him during his first job interview here 3 years ago. The same brother who'd once cried on the phone asking me to help him prepare for his first investor pitch. "Dad," I said quietly, calmly, "I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?" He nodded as if this were a shareholder update, not a personal ambush. "Noah has shown great promise, and we feel he's ready to take the reins. The board has approved the transition. You'll be stepping down effective immediately." I felt the eyes around the table shift toward me, curious, cautious, but not surprised. They'd known. They'd all known. I inhaled slowly. Then I stood up. "All right," I said, my voice steady. "Understood." Noah finally looked at me then. Maybe he expected me to scream, to cry, to beg. But I just opened my laptop, clicked a few keys, and said, "The demo file for tomorrow's investor presentation is on the shared drive. All yours." I handed my laptop to the IT manager without another word. "Enjoy the investor demo tomorrow," I added with a faint smile, then turned on my heel and walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't have to. Because 10 minutes after that meeting ended, a line of hidden code I had quietly embedded into the demo would activate. Not to destroy anything, but to reveal something. Something my father and brother didn't know I had been collecting for the last 6 months. It started when I noticed access logs at odd hours, files copied without explanation. I installed tracking software, security tripwires, and a watchdog protocol hidden inside our flagship product's interface. What I found? Emails, documents, meetings I hadn't been invited to, planning sessions where my own ideas were presented, without my name attached. It wasn't just betrayal. It was theft, polished with nepotism and served with a smile. I had been building the future of the company while they were building a future without me. So I stopped trying to fight for a seat at a table that was already being cleared for someone else. I prepared instead. Not out of vengeance, but self-preservation. Because the product they planned to showcase tomorrow, the AI-powered logistics optimization tool that secured our biggest contracts, was my creation. Not my father's, not Noah's, and certainly not theirs to steal without consequence. Back in my apartment that night, I didn't cry. I didn't rant on the phone or post a vague status update online. I ordered Thai food, opened a bottle of wine, and pulled out my private backup drive. On the screen, a countdown timer appeared. Demo mode activation in 10 minutes. I smiled. Because they had no idea that tomorrow, in front of our top-tier investors, the system would ask for one thing before it could run: authentication from the original developer. And that developer? was no longer in the building. By 9 a.m. the next morning, my phone had already buzzed 17 times. I didn't answer any of them. Voicemails from my father, 2 from Noah, 1 from Angela, the head of investor relations, and another from an unfamiliar number I recognized immediately as the private line to the boardroom. I let them pile up like unread warnings. At 9:30, I poured myself a coffee, stepped out onto my balcony, and pulled up the live investor feed on a private backup tablet. The one I'd used to simulate the platform's AI decision trees. Ironically, the very work they planned to showcase as Reed Industrial's proprietary innovation. The camera feed was crystal clear. I watched from a distance as my father stood in front of a polished screen with the words Project Helix gleaming behind him. He wore his signature red tie, the one he reserved for big meetings, and began his speech with practiced confidence. As many of you know, Reed Industrial has always been a pioneer in logistics solutions, he said. But today we're introducing something revolutionary. The presentation began as planned. A smooth, auto-guided interface explained how the AI system worked, how it could learn from warehouse behaviors, optimize routes, reduce delays, even cut costs by up to 27%. Then came the moment. 10 minutes in, the screen flickered. Just once. Then again. My father paused. A few investors shifted in their seats. The interface blinked twice and a new screen appeared. Not the one they had rehearsed. Authorization error. Original developer credentials missing. Please insert valid security token to proceed. I could practically hear the silence through the screen. My father tapped the touch screen. Once. Twice. Then looked over at the tech lead who sat frozen behind his laptop. Is this part of the demo? One investor asked. Then the screen changed again. Unauthorized use detected. Developer has initiated ethical compliance protocol 7.4. Internal system logs now accessible to all stakeholders. And just like that, the logs began scrolling. Every timestamped document, every late-night access, every unauthorized meeting between Noah and a third-party consultant discussing licensing agreements before my official termination. Even email threads debating when to replace me, not if. I sipped my coffee and tilted the screen back, letting the morning sun warm my face. What I had built wasn't just smart software. It was a sentinel, one that watched and learned, not just from code, but from people. It didn't just track movement inside a warehouse. It tracked behavioral patterns, including internal misuse and ethical red flags. It was designed to protect systems from anyone, even its owners, even its creator. At 9:42 a.m., my father finally called again. This time I answered. Emma? He said, his voice low, like he was trying to stay calm in a room full of chaos. What did you do? I didn't answer right away. You activated a lockdown on our most important presentation, he continued. Do you have any idea what this looks like to investors? I do, I said. It looks like your company tried to erase the one person who made that system possible. There was a long silence. I didn't know Noah went behind your back, he finally said. That wasn't the plan. I let that sit in the air for a second. But cutting me out entirely was the plan, right? More silence. You didn't even ask me, I continued. You just decided I was no longer needed. Like I hadn't sacrificed 10 years to build what you now call Project Helix. Look, he said, softening. Maybe we rushed things. There's still a seat at the table for you. No, I said firmly. There isn't. Not anymore. I hung up, and that's when the next notification came through on my private interface. Ethical violation report sent to stakeholders. Complete. It wasn't about destroying the company. It was about revealing the truth. I had set the system to copy the full internal ethics report to every investor's inbox. Not out of malice, but transparency. They deserved to know what kind of leadership they were backing, what kind of behavior was being hidden behind red ties and boardroom smiles. By 11 a.m., 3 board members had resigned. 2 investors pulled their offers. and the rest requested an emergency ethics review before proceeding with any further funding. I didn't celebrate. This wasn't a victory. Not yet. But it was clarity. For the first time in months, I wasn't questioning whether I was overreacting. I wasn't gaslighting myself into silence. I had told the system to protect itself, to protect what we built. And it had listened. People always see the outcome: success, disruption, retaliation. But rarely do they see the years behind it. The quiet sacrifices, the exhaustion that never quite leaves your bones. The Sunday dinners missed, the relationships strained, the nights you fall asleep at your desk with code still dancing behind your eyes. That was my life for nearly a decade. After finishing my degree in systems engineering, I had offers from Google, IBM, and 2 venture-backed startups. But I chose the family business, Reed Industrial Solutions, because I believed in what my father had built. I believed I could take it further. Back then, the company was struggling to modernize. My father didn't understand automation, machine learning, or even cloud architecture. He was old school. He believed in handshakes, ledgers, and loyalty. Or so I thought. I didn't come in demanding a title or salary. I started low. Project consultant, then lead developer, then tech strategist. Each year, I built something new: inventory mapping software, warehouse automation, smart routing systems. And eventually, Helix, though that wasn't its name then. Helix began as a side project, an AI trained to detect inefficiencies in supply chains. But over time, it evolved. It started predicting disruptions before they happened: shipment delays, vendor fraud, internal leaks. It wasn't just optimization. It was protection. I showed it to Noah once, back when he was still just the kid trying to help out. He'd come to my office late at night, watching me build neural pattern maps on whiteboards and scribble logic chains in the margins of my coffee-stained notebooks. "This is insane," he'd said once, watching Helix reroute a delivery chain in real time after predicting a labor strike. "It's like the AI can see the future." "No," I said. "It sees patterns, and it learns." At the time, he looked at me with awe. That was before the board meetings he started attending alone, before he stopped returning my messages, before the whispers started. I didn't want to believe it, not even when I found the first signs. A copy of my framework shared under Noah's credentials, a budget line item for software scaling that I hadn't approved, meeting invites to Helix-related demos, with my name absent from the list. At first, I told myself it was a misunderstanding, that Noah was just clumsy or eager, that Dad didn't know. But when I brought it up, gently, respectfully, my father looked me in the eye and said, "Maybe it's time to let your brother take the lead on some of these initiatives. He's got a knack for business." A knack. That's what he called it. That night, I stayed in the office until 3 a.m. I stared at the source code of my own creation and thought, what if they really try to take this? What if they lock me out completely? So I began building in safeguards. Not malware, not sabotage. Just a quiet line of logic that said, if the authentication protocol doesn't match the original developer's keychain, the system locks down. Automatically. No drama. Just data. I also began encrypting copies of every major development milestone and saved them off network. And I waited. Now, in the aftermath of the failed investor demo, all of it had triggered exactly as intended. Noah had called 5 times already that afternoon. I didn't answer, but I listened to one of his voicemails just to hear the tone. "Emma," he said, voice tight with tension, "we need to talk. Look, I know things got messy, but we didn't mean to shut you out. It was Dad's call, okay? I was just going along with it." Going along with it. That line echoed in my head for hours, because going along with it is how betrayal begins. Not in malice, in silence, in the choice not to speak up, not to intervene. By 4 p.m., Angela from Investor Relations emailed me directly. "Emma, several stakeholders are asking if you'll be returning to complete the Helix demo." There's a proposal forming to offer you an advisory role and a revised compensation package. Please consider responding within the next 24 hours. The board is open to renegotiation. Regards, Angela F. They were scrambling, and I could have taken the offer. I could have walked back into that office, negotiated equity, a new title, a fat check. Smiled politely and pretended we were all on the same team again. But I didn't want a seat at a poisoned table. I didn't want hush money or a fancy title that meant nothing. I wanted something more valuable. Integrity, recognition, and the power to ensure that what I built would never be used against me again. So I crafted my response with precision. Angela, thank you for your message. I'm open to a discussion, but I won't be returning under a temporary advisory title. I'm prepared to resume leadership of the Helix project, under terms that include formal recognition as its creator, 51% IP ownership, and veto power on ethical use cases. Otherwise, the system remains inaccessible. Kindly, Emma Reed. I hit send and closed the laptop. This time, I wasn't waiting for permission. That evening, I got a dinner invitation. It came in the form of a short, formal message from my father's assistant. Emma, your father has requested a private dinner to discuss the future of the company and your role in it. He hopes you'll join him tonight at 7 p.m. at La Vigne. A reservation has been made under Reed. Monica. La Vigne, his favorite restaurant. The same one where we celebrated the company's first $10 million quarter, back when I still believed this business was a family and not just a brand. I considered ignoring the message, but then I remembered something an old mentor once told me. Never walk away from the table when they're finally ready to admit they need you. Let them say it out loud. So I dressed sharp, arrived exactly on time, and found my father already seated at a corner table, wine glass in hand, menu untouched. He stood when he saw me. Emma? I nodded. Dad. No hugs, no fake warmth. Just silence as I took my seat across from him. He studied me as if trying to read the expression I wasn't showing. You look well, he offered. Strong. I am. He cleared his throat. You've made quite an impression the last 24 hours. Funny, I said, tilting my head. I've been making impressions for 10 years. You just weren't looking. That shut him up for a second. Then came the sigh. The one I knew too well. Part frustration, part forced humility. I'll admit we made some miscalculations, he began. Pushing you out was premature. I didn't respond. I wanted to see where he was going, whether he was here to apologize or to negotiate with the same manipulation he used in boardrooms. You've built something extraordinary, he continued, and we want to bring you back in. Noah agrees. The board is prepared to offer you a co-director position. Same salary as him, shared oversight of the Helix project, and a retroactive bonus package. I raised an eyebrow. That's cute. He frowned. Emma. No, I interrupted. Let's not pretend this is about fairness. You didn't come here to offer balance. You came because the system won't run without me, and the investors are threatening to walk. I leaned forward, my voice quiet but firm. You came because you lost control. He stared at me, jaw tightening. You're not being reasonable. Reasonable? I echoed. Dad, I spent a decade building your vision into something that could change an industry. I gave up everything. Security, relationships, time. And when it started working, when it became something real, you handed it to Noah like a participation trophy. His eyes narrowed. You're overreacting. Noah may not have your technical skill, but he has vision. No, he has ambition. I snapped. And you handed him mine. For a moment, we just sat there. Two people who used to be father and daughter, now just two professionals negotiating ownership of the same empire. He finally said, "What do you want?" There it was, the question I had waited for. I already told Angela, I said. I want 51% of the Helix IP, formal recognition as its creator, oversight of every implementation, and $5 million in retroactive compensation for the unauthorized use of my work. His jaw clenched. That's outrageous. That's generous, I said. I could have gone public. I could have let those internal logs hit the press. You wouldn't do that, he said, with a flash of the old confidence. Wouldn't I? I leaned back in my chair, calm as ever. You raised me to protect what I build. You just never expected I'd apply that lesson to you. He looked away for the first time all night. Maybe it was shame. Or maybe he realized that for the first time I wasn't the daughter trying to earn his approval. I was the woman who no longer needed it. The check came. He paid. As we stood, he said quietly, "I'll have legal draw up the documents." I nodded. "Good. And Dad?" He looked up. "I'm not coming back to be your employee. I'm coming back as your equal. Don't forget that." He gave a slow nod. Understood. I walked out into the night, the crisp air hitting my face like a reset button. The street was quiet. My phone buzzed with a message from Angela. "Board has been informed. Drafting new terms. Congratulations." I didn't smile. Not yet. This wasn't over. But the balance of power had shifted. And for the first time in a long time, I was exactly where I needed to be. By Monday morning, the building looked exactly the same. But everything had changed. The front desk staff stood a little straighter as I walked in, and the security guard, Marcus, who used to nod without looking up, gave me a sharp, respectful, "Good morning, Ms. Reed." I nodded back, wondering how much he knew. Probably more than I thought. In my hand, I held a fresh access badge. The lanyard read Executive, Co-founder in bold silver letters. The elevator ride up felt strange. Familiar, yet foreign. Like walking through a house you used to live in before it was remodeled without your permission. My floor, formerly the innovation wing, had been rearranged. My office had been emptied, and the nameplate on the door now read Noah Reed, Director of Strategy. I didn't bother knocking. Noah was behind my old desk, typing furiously, looking like a man on the edge. The second he saw me, his face tightened. "Emma." "Noah," I said calmly. "Looks like you've made yourself comfortable." He stood up. "You've got some nerve showing up here after what you pulled." I gave a tight smile. "Funny. That's exactly what I thought when I found you presenting my work as yours." He scoffed. "We were a team." "No," I interrupted. "We were never a team. I brought you in. I coached you through your first year. I gave you access to everything I created, and you used that trust to undermine me." "I didn't plan this," he said defensively. "Dad said, 'Don't,'" I cut in. "Don't put this on Dad. He may have given the order, but you executed it." He sat back down, exhaling through his nose. "So what now? You're just back? Like nothing happened?" "I'm back," I said. "But nothing's the same. I've reviewed the new contract. I have majority control over the Helix IP. All implementations run through me. And you are no longer authorized to touch the system." His mouth dropped slightly. "That's ridiculous. You can't just—" "I can," I said, placing a printed copy of the agreement on the desk. And I did. He stared at the document like it had insulted him. "So what? You're going to be Dad's equal now?" "Noah," I said gently but firmly, "I'm not interested in being Dad's equal. I'm only interested in protecting what I built. If you want to work on your own projects, fine. But Helix is mine now. Officially, permanently." He sat in stunned silence. I turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. "You could have just asked, you know. If you wanted to be part of it, I would have let you in. On the right terms. But instead you went behind my back. You let Dad talk you into believing you deserved something you didn't build. That kind of thinking? It has consequences." I walked out without waiting for a reply. Later that day, I sat in my new office, Spartan but functional, flipping through Helix's live reports. Since the lockdown had lifted, the system had resumed its predictive analysis. seamlessly adjusting warehouse workflows, vendor flags, and fleet routing across our logistics network. It was better than ever, smarter, more intuitive. At 2:15 p.m., Angela knocked and entered with a list of upcoming client demos. "We've had 4 new inquiries from enterprise clients since this morning," she said. "Apparently, word got out that the system has a real-time ethics protocol embedded. They want it. Badly." I nodded. "Schedule them, but under the new transparency model." Angela raised an eyebrow. "Transparency model?" "Yes," I said. "Every implementation of Helix from this point forward includes 3 things: user accountability logs, internal ethics tracking, and quarterly compliance audits. I won't let this technology become another corporate weapon." She smiled, a little surprised. "That's bold." "It's necessary," I said. "I've already seen what happens when power is handed to the wrong people." After she left, I leaned back in my chair. The office was quiet. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Control. Not over other people, but over myself, my work, and the future of what I had built. I checked my inbox. There was one message waiting. From my father. "Emma, I reviewed the documents. I understand the terms. You've made your position clear. For what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've built, even if I didn't show it the right way." "Dad." I didn't reply, not because I didn't care, but because sometimes silence says more than 1,000 words. And in that silence, a boundary had finally been drawn. This was no longer just a business. This was mine. 3 months later, Helix was everywhere. We had just closed our largest contract yet, an international supply chain conglomerate spanning 6 continents. Helix would be the central nervous system for their logistics infrastructure, monitoring every node in real time, predicting risks, preventing breakdowns, and doing it all under our new ethical framework. Every contract included clauses I had personally added: protections for employees, data integrity safeguards, and automatic reporting protocols that triggered when misuse was detected. I didn't just want to change the system. I wanted to change how systems were run. And the world had taken notice. I was invited to speak at industry conferences. Forbes published a feature titled "The Woman Who Rewired the Game." My inbox flooded with invitations from venture capitalists and offers to buy me out. But I wasn't selling, because this wasn't about cashing in. It was about owning what I had built and protecting it, fiercely. Inside the office, the atmosphere had shifted. People were more cautious around me at first, unsure of what my return meant. But I made it clear. I wasn't there to punish anyone. I was there to lead. Not with vengeance, but with clarity. "Noah?" He kept his distance. After the dust settled, he stepped back from his executive role and took on a less visible position: Strategic Partnerships Liaison. A demotion in spirit, if not in title. He avoided direct contact, though I caught him once, standing silently outside the Helix operations room, watching the monitors flicker with real-time optimization data. His face was unreadable. My father kept up appearances. He congratulated me publicly, praised my visionary leadership at shareholder meetings, and even posed with me in the company's press releases. But behind closed doors, our relationship remained professional. Not cold, but distant. Like 2 former generals who had survived the same war but no longer fought on the same side. And that was okay, because some scars don't need to be fixed. They need to be acknowledged, so you can move on with your armor intact. Then came the day that brought it all full circle. I was scheduled to speak at the company's annual Innovation Summit, a high-profile event where our biggest clients, stakeholders, and partners flew in from around the world. Backstage, I reviewed my talking points, took a breath, and stepped onto the stage. The lights hit me. Dozens of faces stared back, but I wasn't nervous. I was ready. 3 years ago, I began, this company nearly lost its future. Not to competitors or market crashes or tech disruption, but to something much harder to see: internal betrayal. There was a pause in the room. Betrayal doesn't always look like sabotage. Sometimes it's quiet, a meeting you're not invited to, a decision made without your input, a credit line with your name removed. A few heads nodded, others stiffened. I didn't fight back with lawsuits or headlines. I let the system I built speak for itself, because I trusted it to tell the truth. I paused, letting that settle. And here's what I've learned. You have to protect what you build. Not just the code or the contracts, but your integrity, your ideas, your boundaries. More nods now, eyes locked in. Because if you don't protect them, someone else will take them. And they won't ask. They'll smile while they do it. They'll say it's business, that it's nothing personal. I stepped forward. Make it personal. The room was completely still. Helix didn't just predict threats. It identified patterns, and those patterns told a story. A story about what happens when innovation is treated like property instead of purpose. Another beat of silence. I'm not here because I played politics. I'm here because I prepared. Because I stayed true to what I knew was right. Even when it hurt. And that's what I want to leave you with today. I looked across the room, at the executives, the engineers, the interns. At some point, someone will try to take what you've built. They'll underestimate you, ignore you, replace you. I let that hang in the air. But remember this. Power doesn't lie in who gets the credit on the first page. It lies in who controls the next chapter. Applause broke out. Not thunderous, but sincere. After the summit, a young woman approached me. Nervous, excited, eyes full of ambition. Maybe the way I used to look at my dad. "Ms. Reed," she said, "what's the secret? To doing what you did?" I smiled, handed her the mic they'd just taken off me, and said, "Build something they can't take from you, and make sure it knows exactly who you are." That night, I got home late. Tired, wired, fulfilled. As I kicked off my heels, my phone buzzed softly. A quiet notification from the Helix system. System integrity secured. Threats neutralized. Protections active. Creator authenticated. I smiled. Not because the war was over, but because from now on I'd never have to fight it unarmed again.
When I arrived for our family trip, no one was there. Confused, I checked my phone. My mother wrote, "TS trip is for real family only." My sister added, "Take care of my kids and dog, bye." I closed my phone and booked another ticket. Days later, my parents and sister turned pale. My name is Jennifer Williams. I work as a biochemist in the research and development department at a pharmaceutical company in San Francisco. Every day spent working on new drug development is incredibly fulfilling. Every Sunday I attend service at the First Presbyterian Church of San Francisco, and sometimes I volunteer to teach science classes for children. My days were peaceful and fulfilling, at least until that day. My parents live in the upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood of San Francisco. My mother Martha is a former high school teacher. She's someone who cares deeply about her reputation at church, and always wears the latest Chanel suits. "Appearances are everything" is her favorite saying. Just the other day at a church gathering, she was showing off my sister's expensive handbag. My father George runs a real estate company and makes over $300,000 a year. He has an intimidating personality and always looks down on family members. His catchphrase is, "Since I'm providing the money, it's only natural that you do as I say," and he tries to control the family with money. My sister Caroline lives in a Victorian house in Pacific Heights. She proudly tells everyone she meets about her Instagram followers, saying I'm an influencer. She spends all day taking selfies. Her husband Stephen is a middle manager at an IT company and is a workaholic. They seem to hardly have time to look after their children, 8-year-old Michael and 6-year-old Emma. Even when they're home, they're constantly staring at their laptops. I live alone in a luxury condominium in the Marina District. Though I'm not married yet, I'm content with my current life. My salary at Genentech is more than adequate, and above all, spending time with Michael and Emma brings me joy. Every weekend I buy fresh ingredients at the Ferry Building Marketplace and bake homemade apple pies with the children. Such small moments of happiness give meaning to my life. I secretly provide $500 monthly for the children's education expenses. I also make sure to help them with their studies using Khan Academy. While my parents give my sister's family monthly in support, they provide nothing for me. But I don't mind that. Weekday pickups and drop-offs for after-school activities, weekend homework support, sports days and classroom visits. I try to be there for the children as much as possible. Michael is sensitive and loves books. When I take him to the California Academy of Sciences, he's the kind of child who can spend hours in front of the exhibits. Just the other day he enthusiastically explained to me about the dinosaur exhibit. "Aunt Jenny, this is a life-sized Tyrannosaurus skeleton." My heart melted seeing his eyes sparkle with excitement. Emma, on the other hand, is bright and sociable. But her mother Caroline was too busy taking selfies and didn't even come to her daughter's ballet recital. Emma's lonely expression that day still pierces my heart. It was time to plan our annual Hawaii trip. Building sandcastles on Waikiki Beach, watching tropical fish at the aquarium, my memories with the children are my treasures. This year, my sister has apparently proposed a special family trip. Yesterday, Emma said on the phone, "Aunt Jenny, you're coming with us this year too, right? I want to build sandcastles again like last year." That innocent voice still rings in my ears. I answered, "Of course, sweetheart." Saturday morning at 9, the early summer sunlight was streaming through the large glass windows. I had arrived 30 minutes early and was waiting for my family at a cafe near the Hawaiian Airlines check-in counter, sipping a lavender honey latte. I couldn't sleep last night from excitement, and had been up since 4 a.m., checking my luggage multiple times. Next to my suitcase was a bag containing surprise gifts for the children. For Michael, I had bought the beginner telescope he'd been wanting, and for Emma, new ballet shoes and a leotard. How I had looked forward to stargazing together in Hawaii. Last weekend, when I read an astronomy book with Michael, his eyes sparkled as he told me, "Hawaii has less light pollution, so you can see the Milky Way clearly." That expression of pure joy is still etched in my heart. Around me, the cheerful voices of families filled the air. I couldn't help but smile seeing a little girl pulling her parents' hands. She was wearing a pink dress just like Emma's. A long line had already formed at the counter, with everyone smiling in anticipation of their vacation. A father in a Hawaiian shirt was standing in line with his young son on his shoulders. That scene felt somehow nostalgic and a little bittersweet. 9:15, still no sign of my family. Probably my sister had overslept. It's typical of her. I remembered how last month she was 30 minutes late to the children's school observation day, and had to apologize to the teacher. I tried calling my parents on my cell phone. No answer. I tried my sister's number too. Again, no one picked up. They know the flight time. Thinking this, I checked social media. There were no new posts on my sister's Instagram. Strange. Usually she never fails to post her breakfast photos. Yesterday's post was a selfie showing off her newly purchased Gucci sunglasses. Anxiety began to grow slowly. I tried calling again. 3 times for my mother, 5 times for my sister, twice for my father. All went to voicemail. Messages weren't being read either. Something wasn't right. Had there been an accident? Or was someone ill? Sweat began to form on my palms. I took a sip of the cafe's ice water and took a deep breath. Outside the window, maintenance crew were performing their routine aircraft checks. There was something mechanically precise about their movements. 30 minutes until boarding time. The waiting area was gradually emptying. Passengers whose names were called headed toward their gates one after another. I could feel my heartbeat gradually getting faster. Hawaiian Airlines Flight 123 to Honolulu is now boarding. First-class passengers, please have your tickets ready. At that moment, my smartphone vibrated. There was a new post in the family group. When I opened the screen, I couldn't believe what I saw. By the pool at the Royal Hawaiian, a luxury hotel on Waikiki Beach, there were my parents and my sister's family, taking selfies with bright smiles. My father wore new expensive sunglasses, and my mother was dressed in a white resort dress. Michael and Emma wore slightly troubled expressions. The caption, "Arrived in Hawaii with family." The start of the best time stabbed at my eyes. Then came a message from my mother. "This trip is for a real family only. You probably wouldn't understand, but someone who isn't married and doesn't have children can't understand the true meaning of family. It's about time you stopped meddling with other people's children." An additional message arrived from my sister. "Please take care of our kids and dog. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Check my Instagram stories. Oh, and there are ingredients the kids like in the fridge, so make sure to cook for them properly. But don't take any photos, it would affect my social media image." The smiling faces of my family on the screen. Those were expressions without a trace of guilt after abandoning me. The post already had comments like, "What a wonderful family trip. Ideal family life." So envious. Each one cut into my heart like blades of ice. My father hadn't written anything, but his silence itself showed his agreement. It's always like that. Father never directly condemns. He just approves through silence. Sometimes that passive complicity leaves the deepest wounds. The surrounding bustle felt like it was from another world. Through the airport's large windows, I could see planes taking off one after another. As I watched the aircraft descending into the blue sky, I was strengthening my resolve. Don't worry, Michael, Emma. I repeated those words in my heart many times. This isn't just about revenge. The time has come for me to do what only I can do for their true happiness. I arrived at the luxurious house in Pacific Heights that evening. When I opened the heavy Victorian-style door, Maria the maid was standing in the living room furnished with expensive pieces. She approached me with an apologetic expression. "Miss Williams," Mrs. Peyton suddenly instructed. "It's all right, Maria. You can go home. I'll take care of things here." I heard footsteps coming down the stairs, and Michael and Emma came running out. Aunt Jenny. They ran to me and hugged me tightly. There were traces of tears on Emma's cheeks. "Why did Mom and Dad leave us behind?" Michael's voice was trembling. "Mom and Dad just keep taking pictures. Are we in their way?" I hugged them gently and kissed their foreheads. "You're never in the way. You're my precious treasures." From that day, a new life began. We started by establishing a regular daily routine. Wake up at a.m., homemade breakfast. Oatmeal topped with maple syrup and fresh blueberries, whole wheat toast with homemade apple jam. Emma's eyes sparkled as she said, "This is so much better than Mom's." I handled school drop-offs and pickups. As the head of the Research and Development Department, I could adjust my working hours somewhat flexibly. My colleagues at the lab were understanding and allowed me to work from home 2 days a week. Michael showed particular interest in science, and loved hearing about the microscopes I use in the lab. Emma made piano practice her daily routine, and I would watch over her progress while turning the sheet music pages. On holidays, we went to various places. At the California Academy of Sciences, Michael would stop in front of the dinosaur exhibit and start giving detailed explanations. "Aunt Jenny, this fossil is from the late Cretaceous period." He was like a little professor. At the aquarium, Emma would quietly say, "I wonder if these fish are in Hawaii too." Those words squeezed my heart. We had picnics at Golden Gate Park. While munching on homemade sandwiches, the children gradually opened up their hearts. "Mom only smiles when taking Instagram photos," said Emma. "Dad's always on work calls. He didn't even come to my science presentation," said Michael. I quietly began recording such conversations. Using my smartphone's voice memo function, I collected their honest feelings about loneliness and anxiety. I never forced them. I gently gathered their true feelings from natural conversations. I took photos too. But not like my sister's staged social media shots. Serious expressions while doing homework, concentrated profiles while playing piano, innocent smiles while playing in the park. I carefully documented the children's authentic moments. I also began keeping their essays. In an essay titled "My Family," Emma wrote, "Aunt Jenny always listens to me. She always comes to my ballet recitals. Even though Mom doesn't come, I can do my best because Aunt Jenny is there clapping for me." Meanwhile, flashy posts continued on social media. My sister's Instagram was filled with daily photos from Hawaii. Best family time. Making wonderful memories with my beloved children. But the children's expressions in those photos looked somehow empty. I made sure to back up all the voice recordings, saved photos to multiple cloud storage services, and scanned all the children's essays to digitize them, storing the originals in the safe at my home. Then, 3 days before their return, Michael knocked on my bedroom door. "Aunt Jenny, I have something to tell you," he continued with a trembling voice. "You know, I've always wanted to say this. I wish you were my real mom." When I heard those words, tears streamed from my eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were proof of my determination for the battle that was about to begin. Sunday afternoon, at 3, I held the children's hands gently while watching the arrival gate. The arrival announcement for Hawaiian Airlines Flight 426 appeared. Michael squeezed my hand tightly. Emma clung nervously to the hem of my dress. Passengers began emerging from the arrival gate. First appeared my mother, Martha, dressed in a new Chanel dress and wearing large sunglasses. Behind her, my sister Caroline appeared, immediately taking out her smartphone to start taking selfies. My father, George, was quietly pulling his suitcase. Her husband, Stephen, was, predictably, walking while looking at his open laptop. "Oh, children, Mommy's back." Caroline came running with open arms. However, Michael and Emma stood still behind me, hiding. "What's wrong?" "It's Mommy. Come here," Mother said in a saccharine voice. But the children clung to me even more. "I don't want to go back." Emma's small voice was heard. "We want to live with Aunt Jenny," Michael said clearly. At those words, Mother's expression froze. Father frowned, and my sister hurriedly put away her smartphone. People around us began to notice the strange atmosphere and stopped walking. What are you saying? We're your real family, aren't we? Caroline's voice cracked slightly. Real family? I spoke quietly but with a firm voice. Then, shall we talk about what a real family is? I took out my smartphone. Mother straightened her back defensively. I played the first recording. Mom, why didn't you come to my ballet recital? Everyone else's mom was there. Emma's crying voice. Dad, I got an excellence award in science. I asked you to come see. Michael's disappointed voice. Then I showed the photos. I displayed the glamorous family photos posted on Instagram, alongside the daily photos I had taken. The contrast between the forced smiles for social media and the hollow expressions in reality. This is the reality of what you call us, real family. As Mother was about to speak, shutter sounds from smartphones began to be heard around us. Airport staff were approaching with concerned looks. Be quiet. This is a family matter, Mother shouted. Her voice echoed through the airport lobby. Yes, you're right. This is a family matter, I continued calmly. That's exactly why we should properly listen to how the children really feel, shouldn't we? I continued playing the recordings. The children's daily confessions, their loneliness, anxiety, and above all lack of affection. Aunt Jenny listens to me. Aunt Jenny helps me with my science homework. Mom's always on her phone. Dad's always working. Each word resonated as a heavy truth. The color drained from Father's face. My sister began crying, and Stephen finally looked up from his laptop. That's a lie. We're a perfect family, Caroline shouted. Her voice was slightly trembling. A perfect family? Michael stepped forward. Then why don't you know my favorite food? Why don't you remember my sister's shoe size? Emma continued. Aunt Jenny remembers. She knows all about my least favorite vegetables, my favorite fairy tales, everything. That's when Father spoke for the first time. Wait, let's talk about this. This is a public place. Yes, it is a public place, I said, matter-of-factly. Perhaps that makes it an appropriate place to speak the truth. Just as you've been staging a false family image in the public space of social media, Mother suddenly changed color. Several people were already recording this scene on their smartphones. I could see acquaintances from church. Please, stop. Mother's voice became small. Mom, I won't stop anymore. For the children's sake too. Michael and Emma stood on either side of me, holding my hands with their small ones. Their warmth told me this decision was right. Please grant me partial custody of the children, I said in a clear tone. Weekend custody rights, authority over educational decisions and financial management. Such a thing can't be allowed, my sister screamed. Yes, it can. I took out a stack of the children's essays. These are records that the school counselor has reviewed. Teachers' observations are attached as well. A heavy silence fell over the airport lobby. Dad, Mom, Emma said in a small voice, we want to live with Aunt Jenny, but we love you too. So, couldn't we all become a real family? Those words began to thaw the frozen atmosphere. Father's hard expression began to crumble. Tears started flowing from Mother's eyes, ruining her makeup, but she didn't care. What have we been doing? Mother whispered. My sister nearly collapsed to her knees, and her husband supported her. The people around had forgotten to keep recording and were just watching this scene. It's not too late, I said quietly. We can still become a real family now. The kind of family filled with genuine love that the children wish for. Michael and Emma took a tentative step toward their parents. That small step was the beginning of a new kind of family. A year has passed since then. After Sunday service at the First Presbyterian Church of San Francisco, we gathered in the church courtyard. In the gentle autumn sunlight, Emma was showing off her new leotard for her upcoming ballet recital. Mother peered through her glasses, listening intently to Emma's words. Grandma, what do you think of this costume? Aunt Jenny and I picked it out together. It's beautiful, dear. I'm looking forward to your recital. You promise? Don't forget. Yes, I'll never break an important promise again. Mother's voice trembled slightly at those words. The incident at the airport last year brought significant changes to our family. Since that day, my parents began receiving professional counseling. Mother stopped trying to maintain appearances on social media, and instead started valuing actual time with family. Father also changed his intimidating attitude, and began listening to what the children had to say. My sister Caroline changed dramatically too. Though her Instagram followers decreased significantly, she doesn't seem to mind anymore. Instead, she spends weekends playing with the children in the park and baking homemade treats. Her husband Stephen has also adjusted his work schedule to make time for family. Hey, look, Michael came running over with his science test paper. I got 100. I studied using the method Aunt Jenny taught me. That's wonderful. Father beamed with pride. This weekend, why don't we go to the California Academy of Sciences? I heard they have a new dinosaur exhibit. The children's care is now shared between me and my sister's family. They spend weekdays with my sister's family, and weekends at my apartment. I take the lead in making educational decisions, with my parents being cooperative. Financially, we've reformed the previous unbalanced support system, now sharing the children's educational expenses fairly. The change began with the introduction of family meetings. Every last Sunday of the month, after church service, the whole family gathers to talk. We openly discuss everything: the children's school life, extracurricular activities, family event planning, and make sure to listen to Michael and Emma's opinions too. Where would you like to go for our next family vacation? Father brought this up at our recent family meeting. How about Hawaii again? For a moment the air froze at those words. It'll be different this time. We'll truly enjoy it together as a family. No thinking about Instagram, my sister said in a gentle voice. I actually want to see the volcanoes. Could we visit the Kilauea Volcano Observatory? Michael suggested somewhat shyly. I'd like to visit the Hawaii branch of my ballet school. Emma voiced her wish too. Those are wonderful ideas. Mother smiled. But this time, I'll take photos in moderation and make sure to really see the sights before me. At those words, I internally breathed a sigh of relief. The changes had definitely taken root within us. Looking back, the incident at the airport went viral on social media and caused quite a stir. My sister's followers dropped dramatically, and Mother's standing at church was temporarily jeopardized. But perhaps that was the purification we needed. The mask of the perfect family full of pretense and vanity fell away, revealing underneath the face of a real family trying to genuinely connect, despite their wounds. The old bells of First Presbyterian Church rang out in the autumn sky. We gathered on the church steps to take a commemorative photo. This time, there were no forced smiles. As the shutter clicked, Emma squeezed my hand tightly. Michael sat on Father's lap, opening his dinosaur book. Mother and sister stood close together with natural smiles, and Stephen kept his smartphone in his pocket as he gazed lovingly at his family. The photo captured the blue of the sky, the green of the trees, and above all, our family's authentic happiness. We weren't perfect, but we were a family bound by genuine love. Hey, Aunt Jenny. Emma looked up at me. We found happiness, haven't we? I stroked her head gently as I answered. Yes, we've all found true happiness together. The scent of roses planted in the church garden wafted on the autumn breeze. It seemed to herald the beginning of a new season.